Hey, Coach John Tubiolo here. I want to talk to you a little bit about starting a business. And so what you're going to learn today is there's a lot of different kind of strategies to owning a business or to opening a business or starting a business. And we're going to discuss some of those. Here's the beautiful thing about owning a business is, yes, it's the most exciting thing you'll ever do. It is the most rewarding thing that you will ever do. It is also the most frustrating thing you will ever do, and it will test you. Owning a business is not for the faint of heart. There are people who literally go into massive amounts of debt. It ruins families, it ruins lives. So if you're really committed to opening a business, this is a great place to start. But one of the things that I will caution you on, okay, and this is, I think, probably the key to business success and business failure. And I don't care where you are as far as scalability of a business. This is the key is watching what you make, the revenue you take in to what you're spending, the revenue going out. Most businesses get into trouble when they don't understand how profit and loss works. Right? And it's a very simple concept, and you would think that people would get it inherently, or it would just be part of their thinking, but it's not. There are so many businesses out there who spend more than they take in. So what do they do to combat that? They get more revenue by investing. They get this injection, right? Injection of funds or injection of capital, where they go out and they raise a bunch of capital and they get a bunch of investors that throw more money at something, and then they spend their way into bankruptcy. This happens to a lot of businesses. So what I like to do with people, and I like to coach people on when they're starting a business, is scalable business that starts at its basic element or its root. Starting small and then scaling it up. A lot of people want to jump into a multi-million-dollar business and they get this big amount of money, whether it's through loans or investors or whatever, and then they end up having so much debt that the business can't sustain itself. All they're doing is paying off the debt and paying off the debt. They're not making anything. They're going bankrupt. Their business is going broke, and they can't sustain it, so it ends up going under. So what I tell people is, look, if you've got an idea for a business, I don't care what it is, if you've got an idea for a business, start small. Start with you. And there's so many things that you can do at a macro level or at a micro level even to start a business. And I'll give you a little story. I had a client of mine, we were doing some personal coaching together. And she said to me, I really don't know if this is my passion, this business that she's doing. She was working for somebody else. And I said, well, what do you like to do? And she said she likes to cook. Now, she likes to make burritos. And I said, okay. And she said, I'd love to own my own restaurant. So I was thinking about, quitting my job, applying for some loans, taking out a second mortgage on my house, or refinancing my house, taking out that money, cashing out my IRA, doing all this, and then opening up a restaurant. And the problem with that, and this is what I told her, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, you can make the best, and we use McDonald's as an example, right? You can make the best hamburger in the world, but you're never going to outsell McDonald's. And yet a lot of people think, well, I make a better hamburger than McDonald's. Surely I could do that. They have so many things built into their business, so many metrics built into their business, that they're able to produce a really, really cheap hamburger. And if they sell that hamburger for 50 cents, they're still making money on it. When you're going at it as a solo, single person, the single restaurant, and you don't have the buying power of a McDonald's, what happens is you end up spending more on that hamburger than it's probably worth. So you're going to spend more to make that one hamburger than it's worth and what you can sell it for. And what will happen is you may have 2 or 3 customers or 4 or 5 customers, but it's not enough to sustain a full-fledged business with a facility, with a location, with a staff and all that. So what happens is people they sink a ton of money into this thing, hoping and praying that they're going to get the word out in marketing and advertising. And you hear this, well, you just got to market and you just got to advertise. Well, but if your product is overpriced And in today, people aren't going to pay a lot more money for a product that they think, I could probably make at home, or it's good, but I'm not going to eat it every day. They're not going to eat it 3 or 4 times a day. They're not going to eat it 7 days a week. So if they're only going to come and visit you, you may have 20 or 30 people that come to visit you, regulars, but if they only eat at your place once a week or twice a week, it's not enough revenue to sustain it. So what you have to do is you have to be able to negotiate costs. You have to have a buying volume that gets your prices way down so that you can afford to operate that facility or that location at a much lower overhead, right? And that's really what that comes down to, is overhead. What you're spending every month to keep the doors open versus what you're bringing in, the revenue. When I was growing up in the business world, or when I was a younger man, and I started my own business when I was, 7 or 8 years old, lawn mowing business in the neighborhood. I had a guy tell me one time, he said, John, he said, let me give you some advice, young man. And this is a neighbor of mine that I would mow his lawn. And, and I was making $5 to mow the front and the backyard, $2.50 for the front, $2.50 for the back. He said to me, he goes, in order for you to understand how you run your business, and if your business is profitable, you need to do 2 things. And again, this is back in the 70s, right? So this is a long time ago. He said, we used to have a real basic business principle. We'd have a shirt with 2 pockets, and we kept our bills in one pocket and our money in the other pocket. And as long as the money we had that pocket was fuller than the bills that we had in the other pocket, we knew we were making money. Now, it sounds kind of absurd, but it is a true basic business principle. You have to make more than you spend, right? So back then I was paying, 25 cents for a gallon of gasoline. So really what he was doing was paying me for my time, but I never took into account the maintenance on the mower. I never took into account the sharpening, right, of the blades. What if something, spark plugs, changing those out, the trash bags that I was paying for. So all of that was an expense that I had to come up with when I was mowing his yard. And I never thought about that. So when you're talking about a business, and again, I don't care what kind of business it is, it's all about how much revenue you can make, okay? How much you spend versus how much you take in. So going back to this story of this lady, and I said, well, what kind of foods what do people like about your food? And she said, well, I really make these wonderful burritos. And I said, okay, well, yeah. Now you're talking about, going head to head with, Taco Bell and Del Taco and all these other little companies that make these burritos. So we sat down, I said to her, well, why couldn't you do this part-time? Why could you not, during your days off, make these burritos and figure out where to sell them? Maybe you can do a delivery service to some business parks or some big businesses. Go in, ask them if it's possible for you to go in and sell your goods in the mornings when people get there. Because a lot of times people leave their house and they think, I'm going to have some breakfast, and they don't really get anything. And then they're living off of vending machine food, which is way overpriced and really not that good. I said, why don't you test the waters first? So she started making these burritos. She went out and talked to a bunch of people that owned office buildings that had a lot of people in there, and said, look, if I had this burrito, if I came around once a week, how many of you would order burritos? And we'll have 3 different types of burritos, or 4 different types of burritos, one with chorizo, egg and cheese, and potatoes in it, and another one with, there's more vegetarian or whatever it was. And she'd created these 4 different types of burritos. And she would go around and sell these burritos. She would make them in the morning, and when they're gone, they're gone. People could order ahead of time. So she had, a text number that she'd say, listen, if you want a certain type of burrito, let me know if there's things that you like about a burrito or things you want in it that I could add, onions, that kind of stuff. Let me know, and I will make one for you, and we'll bring it to you on this day, right? And she would only do it on a couple days a week. And so what she did was she developed a client base. She developed a revenue stream, and we broke it down to how much does it cost you to make one burrito. And then what could you afford to sell that for? And what are people willing to buy it for? I mean, you can have a really, really good burrito, but nobody's going to pay $10 for it. You may have a really, really good burrito and people would pay $6.50 for it, or $5.50 or $4 or whatever it may be. And if you could even scale it up and say, look, they're $5 a piece or 2 for $8. So there's ways that you can kind of build that. So what she was able to do was go out and start doing this part-time. And it built up a pretty lucrative little business to where she was making these burritos. She'd get up early in the morning, make these burritos, started employing her family. She had her daughters helping, and then had her son helping. And then during the summer, the kids would actually go out and hit more of these places and build these accounts to where she ended up generating quite a bit of revenue off of that was able to replace the revenue that she had coming in from her job. So part-time, she was able to replace her income and be able to do this full-time and made 3 to 4 times more money than she was making working at a job that she really didn't like. So then after getting that part of it down, she bought into a food truck. So she bought a food truck and she scaled it from a single operator making products in her home, distributing them, to having a food truck. She still did the delivery thing and still did the servicing part of it because that was a real key to her business. But then she bought a food truck and started working that in the afternoons and at night. So she was able to scale this business up. And again, using family and then hiring a few employees, she was able to scale this thing up to the point where the food truck was making so much money that it was, and people were she created a following on social media, and she would text out where she was going to be on a certain day, and got into the food truck community, and people really loved her food and was able to diversify out from just the burrito to adding other things to the menu, to the point where she then ended up opening up a restaurant. But it was self-funded, but it started at a basic element. Right? It started at its roots, at a foundation that was manageable. And she could see what the costs were, controlling the expenses, and then using the revenue to justify moving up as demand for her product was there. She would scale that business up. So, and I've seen people do this with lawn care businesses, right? They start with 1 or 2 people. They just mow around the yard or around their neighborhood, and they mow yards and they do landscaping, little small landscaping projects. And then part-time, then that escalates into building a bigger and bigger business. But if you jump in and start getting loans and mortgaging your house, and I see this a lot with bars. People want to buy bars. They think, oh, I love to drink. I have a lot of friends. Well, first thing I will tell you is, if you have a lot of friends and you love to drink, you're the last person in the world that needs to own a bar, because you will end up giving away more of your product than you will have revenue coming in, and you will go under. And your friends will expect certain things. And that's the problem with selling to friends. They always expect that they're going to get a better deal, that they're going to have more say in how, they're treated. So they're going to expect a different level of service than your average customer will. But any business, guys, any business is scalable. You want to do haircuts, you don't need a lot of money to get started. But the other thing that will tell you and teach you when you start at a basic level, at a single level, is you will learn the ins and outs of that business. And you will not be at the mercy of your employees when you have them down the road. Most big businesses, as they scale up, they start spending more money on things that they don't need because they think they want it, or because they should have it down the road. So they'll invest heavily in on the front end, and they'll overpay for that, basically choking off their profits. And then what happens in a time like this, where we're talking about this COVID-19 thing, where businesses get shut down? They don't have any money in reserve, so they can't sustain their business. I want everybody to chase their dream. And if business ownership is for you, and you're prepared to be that entrepreneur, and you're willing to take those risks about being an entrepreneur, I'm 100% behind you. But don't kill yourself and choke off your income source in order to start a dream or chase something that doesn't create revenue for a long period of time. If you don't have any backup reserves and you can't sustain yourself financially, you can't grow a business when all you're thinking about is, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to eat? So it's very, very important that you scale a business up. And I promise you this, there are a lot of people out there who will fund a startup business. They're called angel investors. Or you can go to the bank if you got really, really good credit and you can mortgage your house and you can do all these things. Guys, you'd be better off taking that money and going to Vegas and throwing it down on a table game, whether it's roulette or something, because what'll happen is you're going to lose your money very, very slowly because those investors or that bank is going to take their cut. When you grow too big and you haven't tested the market to really see if there's a demand for what you do and your services, you're going to go broke in your business. And that's not a place where you want to be, because that's the nightmare situation. A dream of owning a business can turn into a nightmare very, very quickly if you are spending more money than you have coming in. And that's either a service-related business or a product-related business. Test the market. And there are so many businesses that you can start in the basement of your home, in your garage, in a spare bedroom, in your kitchen. Some of the most successful businesses on the planet, guys, started in kitchens and garages. Apple started in a garage, right? Amazon started in a basement. There are so many businesses that you can start, but start small, part-time, learn your business. Learn what your business needs, and don't spend money where you don't have to. You always want to grow, but you want to grow with the ability to pay for that growth. Because if you're going outside and funding that growth from somewhere else, you're going to have to pay that back. And that's a really, really hard thing to do. So entrepreneurship, it's a great thing. It is an unbelievable thing. But the things that you need to do is start small, self-fund, test your product and your services, and build a following. And with social media, guys, you don't need a lot of money in advertising and marketing. Now, I have another video that talks about the difference between advertising and marketing, and there is a difference, but you can promote your business on social media for nothing, You don't have to spend a lot of money to promote a business because you're not really expecting the world to buy from you. You just need a few people, and you need a few people to become such big fans of your business and so ingrained in your product that it's a gotta have it. Whether it's a gotta have it once a month, a gotta have it once a week, or gotta have it once a day. That's what you want to build, that following. I hope this helps. I hope this inspires you, and take it from a guy who's owned several businesses, some not very successful, because I did exactly that. Threw a lot of money at something thinking it was just going to take off and explode, and it didn't. And the overhead killed me. And other businesses that I've started from small, really conceptual ideas, small ideas, and single operators, and grew that thing up to where I sold it off and made some money off of those, that's an incredible feeling. And knowing that you built it. Throwing money at something doesn't really build something, right? But starting with a passion, starting with a dream, and chase your passions, chase your dreams, but start small. Start small, scale up. Hope you guys have got a lot of information out of this video. If it helps, pass it on, share it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you guys get more of these videos, because we're going to be producing more and more of these as time goes on, because I'm going to help you be successful. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this because I don't want businesses to fail. I want you to succeed. And so that's my goal in life, to help you build a better quality of life. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.